Okay, welcome everyone to this first meeting of the Future Law Collaborative of 2021. We've taken a bit of a pause since the Negotiating the New Normal Summit last year. And we're really excited to see so many of you from different countries like India, Africa, Brazil, South Africa, Trinidad and Tobago, all plugged in here. France, have I forgotten anyone? Netherlands, UK, and Slovenia all plugged in here today. This is basically what we're going to try to cover today. Who is Future Law, what we're trying to do, how we're trying to do it, and why us, right? What we've done so far. And then we want to communicate with you our great reset. Then we're going to really open up the floor to discuss what's coming up, your feedback, and consider some agreements, invitations, and next steps. Okay. So, and if you can handle all the admissions while I'm doing this, because I'm just seeing more coming. So guys, to really bring you into what Future Law is trying to do, we felt we should tell the story because some of you have plugged in much later on in our journey. We wanted to tell the story of our why Anja and I came together, how we came together, and what we're trying to do in the world in this way. Because we have come together less on the basis of we know exactly what needs to be done in the world, and more on a shared holding of a similar question. And so Anja and I met 4 years ago in 2017 because we both participated in a competition which was run by the Global Challenges Foundation. They asked a question, how might we reimagine global governance in the world? And Anja and Margaret, two lawyers from two completely different parts of the world, completely different backgrounds, both decided to participate. So I am from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, and I specialize in public procurement, anti-corruption and governance. And Anja is from Slovenia in Europe, and she specializes in blockchain and space law and all these sexy areas, you know, the impact of technology on law and society. And we both came together to answer this question. And I also, primarily, the business that I ran in the UK was the USOL School of Empathic Leadership. And that school was very much involved in thinking about how do we create new models for addressing global challenges. And so we hosted in 2017 the first Global Challenges Retreat, which we host every year. And it was at that retreat that Anja attended that Anja and I met. And so from 2017, out of that community, and some of the members of the community are here as well, Jessica and others, we really began thinking and talking to experts from around the world, other lawyers, about how can we reimagine global governance? How can we reimagine the way we make decisions for our collective future? And by 2019, it became clear to Anja and I that whilst what we were doing through USOL, which was about building empathy, understanding ourselves as a system, interacting with other systems within a living system. So we were developing something called radical empathy, which is based on a systems understanding of the world. We recognize that, yes, we can transform who we are from the inside, and we can interact with people differently, and we can shift our own mindsets. But what happens when we are, coming up against structures within society that are hardwired into our laws. And that's a common theme that has been recurring in all that we've done, and recognize that there comes a time in every social entrepreneur's life when you see how constrained you are by the way we have decided to organize ourselves legally. And we could talk a little more of that later on, but I feel anyone who has plugged in here with us today already understands what I'm talking about here. And so this is the question we came together with, and we said, you know what, unless we change the law, we are not going to accelerate as fast as we can toward the system change that we feel is required. And we feel that system change is what is required because we've built our laws and legal systems, our markets, our society on a view of life, a reductive view of life that is not, science is demonstrating to us, it's not who we are. We are actually all interconnected. We are all interdependent. That's the system's view of life. Our legal systems are not built on that basis. There have been significant developments in cognitive and behavioral sciences as well, which is throwing on disrupting our view of how we make decisions. So we thought that we made decisions quite rationally, but we are now seeing, no, it's really a system, an interaction of several components in our body that contributes to that. And if we continue to other parts of ourselves and think that we are all being so rational, then we will not be able to grapple with some of the behavioral outcomes we are experiencing in society. And of course, the one that everyone thinks about when one thinks about the future of law, and for those of you who know the institutions and other future law organizations out there, their focus primarily is on technological advancement and its impact on society, and how law must play catch up and or how law must shift to address that. So Anja and I started off thinking, yeah, we definitely need to intervene in the legal arena, in the legal, and as you will come to see, the policy arena is where we see ourselves. And of course, the iceberg is one of the most well-known system thinking tools. And so we see the outcomes above the surface as the outcomes that all of us are fighting to address. All of us are, trying to figure out how do we address them together. We see them as a result of the patterns, trends, and underlying structures and mental models that exist in society. And we see the law as coming in at the mental model and underlying structures level, and particularly the underlying structures level. And so this is the area where we would like at Future Law to begin to create our impact and do our work in that model. And I want to share this graphic that was created by Jessica, who actually is in the meeting. And she's part of our team. And this is an incredible graphic, I think, that really speaks to the work of system change and what we will be calling and sharing with you later on, what we are trying to do in Future Law as radical system change. Because a lot of people are working on environmental and climate issues, people are working on racism, diversity and inclusion, people are working on, all of the things, consumerism, people are working on markets and how they're operating on us. But as this graphic depicts, these challenges are all interconnected, and then, they come together in a root system. They're part of one root system. And we feel that those who are working on system change in niche areas without really going deeper than addressing the outcomes that you're seeing in society, you're not going to the underlying structures, then you're in a situation where you may be cutting off branches and new branches are going to form. Just really a quick example is right now in COVID. During COVID-19, we just experienced, and we're still experiencing it. When it first happened, in my area, which is public procurement, you saw the mad scramble. You saw the wild, wild west in public procurement and international trade in PPE. And you saw the attempts that were made. Let's fix this. Okay, let's make this more open and transparent. Let's do this. Lots of attempts were made to address it in a reactionary way. And now in 2021, a year later, we are going through the exact same thing in procurement relating to the vaccines. And that's, I think, a great example of us cutting off branches, trying to get things right, and then new branches coming up, because we're not addressing what are the root causes of the challenges we've had in public procurement during COVID-19, which are challenges that always existed, but because of COVID-19, as we all have experienced, you are seeing the lack of sustainability of systems being much more evident. And the crap that we've been engaged in, we're seeing it happening. And so we think that this is the work that we need to do. We need to identify, and I know a lot of people say it, but I hope that by the end of this presentation, you'll see that we're trying to do it a little differently. It's not, we think that we need to go to root causes, absolutely, and this is what a lot of people say. Let's see how Future Law is thinking about how we address these changes. And so we see ourselves as doing the work of radical system change, not just system change, but radical system change. And what do we mean by radical system change? Well, Angela Davis said it in 2006, and it has really, a lot of people are using this word radical now, this buzzword of radical. And some people have an understanding of it, which is not quite aligned to the way in which Angela first articulated it in the discourses. And so Angela basically said radical simply means grasping things by their root. And I think it's just a beautiful way of explaining what we at Future Law are trying to say when we say radical system change. But we didn't leave it there. This is our definition of radical system change. And Future Law has just begun publishing a series on Medium, and we invite you to follow us on Medium so that you can see us break down this radical system change. We see radical system change as shifting, disrupting, or deracinating underlying power structures which maintain unfair, unsafe, oppressive, and degenerative systems within society. And we feel that once you start looking at system change in this way, it cannot occur unless we change the underlying power structures which are holding current systems in place. And this cannot be done without changing the law. This is our thesis, and we are open to feedback and constructive ways of looking at this. But because we at Future Law think, all right, yeah, lots of great, beautiful things are happening in the world right now. I mean, amazing, beautiful things about us collaborating and working together and doing better together. Lots of great innovation, circular economy, which is one. But without us really grappling with the underlying power structures, this is our view, which are embedded in the law, we do not think that we are going to see the outcomes that we all are so, eager and hopeful that we are going to achieve in the world. And so we think that in order to do this work of radical system change, which involves the changing of the underlying power structures in the law, what is required in society right now are new policy actors. This is what we think at Future Law. We think part of what is required are new policy actors who share a complexity mindset, a systems mindset on the global challenges, and who are working at their local levels, the local jurisdiction, to advocate and negotiate new policies, right? And there's a lot more that I can say here, but I feel that in the discussion part, there will be a lot of opportunity for us to go into that. So these new policy actors will be engaged in policy innovation, identifying, developing high leverage strategic policy intervention points. And after we do the work of starting to curate those points, and there are a lot of organizations around the world who are doing the creation of these kinds of points in their niche areas and or within their specific jurisdiction. So we're not saying at all that we are going to be reinventing the wheel, but I will tell you why we say what we're doing is a little different, just slightly different. And then secondly, we have to work at policy diffusion, which is building networks to scale these policy intervention points worldwide. And, you know, we might ask yourself, who is really doing this work in the world? I would say in the way in which we conceive it, I don't think that there's any organization doing the work in the way in which we conceive it, except perhaps the UN. And the challenge with the UN, as we know, is that the UN is based on, you know, state-centric governance systems. So, you know, one state, one vote, and those who hold the political power at state level are the ones that have the power at UN level to be able to negotiate the changes. And whilst that continues to be incredibly important in the work of system change, we are seeing that there is a need for a new genre of policy actors that are not the businesses that are lobbying and paying the politicians for the changes in the laws, but a group, grassroots, from the ground up, professionals around the world coming together and saying, let us work this out for our collective benefit. And so it's almost like a bottom-up UN. So it was with all of this that we decided we were going to, we looked around at the organizations, we looked at the future law organizations that existed, that were looking at rethinking the law, and we didn't really see anyone conceptualizing it in the way in which we were conceptualizing it. We clearly have a stronger normative agenda than some organizations. And we also, and as you will see, we have an approach that is transnational. So we're not jurisdiction based, and we are interdisciplinary. So we do not think that this kind of change can be undertaken only by lawyers or only by subject matter experts. And we think both have to come together. And so in 2019, with this kind, all of that was to tell you all our why we decided we think we should do this, right? Anja and I, after 2 years of going through that, we incorporated in April 2019. And our vision was to facilitate, to help build a legal system that was safer, more just. And we used to call it ecologically resilient future, and we now call it regenerative future. We could discuss why later on, and our mission is to enable, equip, and support this next generation of professional practice that we are talking about. So 2019, we came together to do that, and we started, talking with universities, academics to come and help us in the programs that we were developing. We had, developed quite a great roster of experts, and we were about to launch ourselves into the world with our summit in March 2020. This was our plan. So we were working throughout more later in 2019. We started building our team. Some of our team members are here. And we were planning to do this in launch with the summit, March 2020, come together, let's start a collaborative, blah, blah, blah. But then some of you know this story really well. By January, February, Anja and I started to recognize 2020 that exactly what we thought the world needed through us, which is this collaborative of lawyers and professionals working together to address, the global challenges. So we're not so jurisdiction focused and discipline focused, but we're trying to develop that capacity, right, to hold the complexity of the intersection of all these things. Anja and I recognize, wait a minute, exactly what we're trying to create, the COVID-19 demonstrates more than anything else that what we're trying to do is needed. And because Anja and I really are committed to doing the work of embodying what it means to have a complexity mindset, we knew, we instinctively knew together. We didn't even have to, and Anja and I disagree on many things, but on this we didn't. We just knew we could not host our summit in March. We needed to pause and we needed to understand what were these rapid policy changes taking place. What kind of sense can we make of what was going on in the world? And so we didn't launch commercially as we had planned March 2020. Instead, we did other things instead, and I will share that a little later on. But these are the areas of our substantive focus. Complexity theory, we feel this is a skill set. System intelligence, systems thinking, critical systems thinking is a key skill set that every professional needs to be developing right now, because it really it really disrupts the way we've been thinking about things before. And if we want to solve problems in a different way, we really need to develop the skills to think about the problems in a different way. And so that's why this is one of our key areas of focus. Our second key area of focus is comparative law analysis, because, it's not about a one size fit all. When you're talking about policy diffusion all over the world, it can't be, oh, this is the way to go and every single country must implement it in this way. No, we need to understand the history of countries and the way that they've developed and what their specific needs are. And therefore, how can we manage the tension between what this jurisdiction needs and what the world needs at the same time? And so comparative law, analytical law, and policy analysis is going to help us to be able to make sense of how we can propose certain types of policies. And then the third area is emergent law and practice. And so we are seeing what you're seeing because of the rapid technological advancement, because of the changes that have happened in cognitive and behavioral sciences and neuroscience that teaching us about who we are. We need to have new ways of being and doing, new ways of leadership, new ways of interacting with each other. So we need to develop our capacity in those areas. And then the emergent law areas, which are the sexy areas that, Anja can tell us a lot about. We need to focus on that as well, because AI, data, blockchain, all of these things are really transforming societies in ways that we could not have been prepared for. So those are the three areas of our focus, and we are about research, education, and capacity building. What is our legal system innovation model? So how might we shape the conditions for the emergence of this a safer, more just, and more regenerative future? The old model is of creating policy is nation-centric, it's bordered systems. And so it's looking at things within the state boundaries, and we approach it in a pluralistic way that we are transnational. There are many different ways in which we can come to this thing, and we have to figure out how to impact policymaking processes at that level. All systems are competitive, right-seeking, and proprietary. New systems are collaborative, systemic, and open. All systems are linear and reductionist. New systems complex. All systems stare decisis, which is like built-in path dependency if you're looking at it from a systemic lens. And so we are looking more at emergent approaches. How do we build that agility into the law? That's a wicked problem. That is a wicked problem, and that's a problem that we want to spend some time on. How do we shift? The old model is extractive, new model is regenerative. The old model, you're specializing in your niche, and we all know this. And the new model we are seeing is meta-legal and interdisciplinary, because this niche specialization, I've lived through that. And I've lived through the process, guys, of being a public procurement law specialist, and in my anti-corruption and governance. And in my early times, I was basically in 2002, 2003, when I began specializing in this area and started advocating for policy change in Trinidad and Tobago and in the Caribbean. I was basically a tool in the system. I was a cog in a wheel, right? So I was basically recycling policies that the UN and the World Bank were saying, this is what you need if you want to have good governance in your country. This is what you need. And when I first started, I said, well, yeah, the UN is thinking about our global issues and thinking about the tension between, you know, the state and our collective agenda. And as a young-ish, I was about 30 when I started specializing in that. But as a youngish professional, I did not have the skill set and the critical thinking to be able to say, well, no, the UN is wrong on this. And so when I started the first couple of years, I was this unwitting, I would say, policy advocate for policies that had much deeper underlying impacts that I didn't know, because I am a lawyer and I am specialized in anti-corruption and public procurement. And what I had to learn years in, which caused me then to form the Caribbean Procurement Institute in 2006, is that, sorry, I needed to become an economist. I needed, not that I have, I'm not saying that I have, but I had to learn and read and go much deeper into these things than what was presented to me in my field. And I think this is one of the most critical things we need to start doing, because a lot of people keep asking, why is Future Law doing all of this stuff? Why are we doing all of these different topics? Oh, come on, can't you all not specialize? We have partner after partner that has told us, oh, everybody likes this environment thing, go there. Everyone likes it, go there, focus there, and do work there. And Anja and I keep reiterating, guys, that's the old model. What needs to happen is we need to think about the interconnections and intersections. The time for niche specialization was in the industrial period, and it's all good and it's important and it's part of, you know, understanding the world that we're in. But the critical skill set that we all need to become comfortable with right now is, how do we become broad? Anja calls it the new Renaissance. Right? We are in a new Renaissance period where we now need to know a little bit or a lot about a lot of different things before we can stand up and say we are responsible policy actors in any space. Just because you're passionate about one particular thing is not enough anymore. It is really not enough anymore. So yeah, don't stop me on that. So we think that our innovation model, we do it through our networked communities of practice. And we think that these two aspects are key if these network communities of practice are going to work. They have to be transnational, right? It cannot be jurisdiction based. And I remember when we started with the COVID-19 network community of practice, global COVID-19 policy response, the natural instinct of we had over 200 lawyers that were contributing on a regular basis, helping us to build this policy database we were doing and helping to think about how, what was going on in the world. And we were creating papers and all that sort of thing, research papers, and doing amazing, I think it was amazing, visualizations and all of that. We had some data scientists with us. It was really incredible. But what happened then is that we saw everyone gravitating to their jurisdiction. And we had a huge group develop in India that was focused on India. And we had a huge group develop in Kenya and Uganda. And, we saw the silos again, what is happening in the world replicating at that level. And so there is a path dependency when it comes to national systems, that if we really want to move from the individual to the collective, if we want to move from national to global and solving global problems, we have to make the uncomfortable step of stepping out of thinking just about what's happening to me locally. And because I'll tell you why, we don't have that luxury anymore. We don't have the luxury to think locally anymore. Hyperlocalism is not going to help us because the multinational corporations, the transnational corporations, the organizations which are the new policy actors and gaining lots of power certainly do not think hyperlocal. And because they are not thinking hyperlocally, then the power dynamics at that level are continuing to be with nation states and those that fund nation states and those that operate at that level. And I think as individuals and professionals, we can no longer bury our heads in the sand and focus on the community. So transnational is really important. Interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, I just mentioned why I think that's important, right? So what we do in the NCOPs, or what we aim to do, and of course, we are fledgling, we are nascent, we are at the beginning of this journey. We want to do knowledge generation where we share and we build the knowledge that we have about an issue. So network communities of practice organize around issues, and I'll share a little bit about what we've done so far, right? They are organized around issues. We want to build our knowledge together. We want to engage in observation, policy and system mapping, and therefore we can identify policy and policy innovations. And then we want to partner and work with organizations that can help us to build movements, help us to create powerful change narratives. We will draft model provisions and new policies and all of that. And so that's normative co-production, co-create and intervene. Okay, so that is what future law is doing. And this is how we describe it in our NCOPs. This is what we went through with the global COVID-19 policy database. And so as a case study, just really quickly, we came together, we established a policy database. We got lawyers from all over the world submitting the COVID-19 policy changes that were taking place in their jurisdictions. The database now has 10,000 rows of policy data, over 10,000 rows of policy data. One of the things that's different about our policy database is we actually link the hard copies of the laws and policy changes themselves, so that it's not secondary data that you're going to be looking at. Our summary of what happened in a country, we actually, it's a properly cited searchable database. So we first did that. We started to do some data analysis and system mapping, and you all can check us out on our Tableau. Future Law Institute has a Tableau where we've shared some of the analysis that we started to do and what we started to see. Then we worked to identify strategic intervention points. One of the intervention points we saw was in international trade and public procurement, how you were dealing with crisis procurement. And we came up, so we went to C, then we went to D, we came up with crisis procurement provisions, and we wrote a paper on it. A couple of people here were part of writing that paper. It was submitted to the UNESCAP, and it was singled out for being an excellent paper. We were very surprised that we had 14 authors from all over the world on that paper. So we were able to demonstrate what was going on with the procurement situation in all of these different, and trade situation in all of these different countries. And they singled us out and they gave a certificate of excellence to every single author. It was quite interesting, and then invited us to their working group when we had a couple meetings with them. And they've published our paper on crisis procurement. That's where we've gotten to on that. But the point being, that's just a micro case study of what we could do. And we were under severe, as you all know, we were all in COVID at the time when this started happening. So I don't particularly like this graphic, but it conveys what we're trying to do, right? And yeah, when we have, great graphic artists, they're going to do this in a better way for me, because it looks a bit linear here. Learn, leverage, lobby, legislate, litigate. We all know some aspects of this are linear, but all of this is happening at the same time. These are the activities that we think, our policy actors will be engaging in on the issues that matter to them. And so NSOPs will be structured to be able to deliver this kind of thing. So what have we done so far? Very quickly, boom, boom, boom. These are the NCOPs we've been working on. I spoke a little bit about GCPR. Out of GCPR, in addition to international trade and public procurement, the other two intervention points that were really seriously identified by the lawyers working together at that, lawyers and system thinkers and subject matter experts working together between March and July, August last year. It was rule of law and human rights. We definitely wanted to put an emphasis on that. We have some interesting findings coming out in terms of rule of law, that countries that had registered or ranked higher on the World Justice Index rule of law rating, they actually had much higher COVID-19 rates of infection and deaths and mortality. And that was in the first few months. I don't want to misquote what we found. So that would have been between March and April, May. Rule of law actually stymied the protection of the citizens. And in more authoritarian states, they were able to far more rapidly address the protection of the citizens. And so there's a wicked problem right there. We identified that and we started, mapping certain things on that and did some visualizations on that. And we also identified data privacy and security as key, because we saw this as another opportunity for the world governments, the powers that be, to use crisis to learn more about us and to put systems in place where they can learn and know more about us. And that's a whole other issues. We can't go into each of the issues, but I'm just showing the issues that we are putting a thing on. And post the summit, it's all about, we've been working on a complexity NCOP, an ecocide NCOP, blockchain, and we are launching a circular economy NCOP this month. So we're linking them to our masterclasses. And these are the things we've done so far. The COVID-19, as I said, we had the summit. I should have said this, right? So when Anja and I decided to press pause and say, no, we're not going to go with our summit, what should we do instead? We changed our question from what we were looking at. We said, what if we did have this collaborative of lawyers that we are trying to build? What if it did exist? What would they do in the midst of crisis? And when we answered that, for ourselves, it was, well, the first thing they would do is not rush to act. Because if you're taking a complexity mindset, you really want to start to map and look for, remember the iceberg that we started, we want to start looking for patterns of interaction. We want to start to look first, sense first. And so that's why we launched in March 2020, the Global COVID-19 Policy Research. And we had some incredible partners. Kareem is here with us, and many other organizations. If you go to gcpr.io, several organizations joined with us to build this policy database and start work around that. Around August, we felt, it's time for us to do our summit and to really bring together people from all around the world who were interested in law and policy change, legal system change in particular. Again, incredible group of partners and organizations that supported, and people, academic experts, system thinkers, incredible people who partnered with us on that summit to really try to, create all of this. I would say we were curating policy intervention points, and I'll tell you a little bit about what we achieved there. But let's be frank, for those of you who came, our website crashed. We had lots of challenges. I mean, there were beautiful moments, no doubt, but we did not accomplish all that we hoped to accomplish with the Negotiating the New Normal Summit, despite having 1,700 people registered to attend. At our summit, we didn't have more than 100 and something people on any particular day. So it was over 5 days. And we have a lot of information on it on our website. But what we have sought to do post the summit and Anya and I really needed to pause and reflect, because we worked really hard. We were able to, with we had many volunteers. We had up to 20 something volunteers. And this was all a volunteer effort in 2020, come together to work to help us help all of us. We all were helping each other to build the policy database, put on this summit, bring people together around this. We generated over 100 hours of multimedia content. So what we decided to do is, let us create something to host this content and to continue to stimulate conversations around the issues that we were curating. And what we did out of that, we've put it on Flix. It's part of that. So as a member of what you're doing, you get access to all that. We have a podcast that, we've been working on 6 episodes. We've had, since January, 395 downloads so far. We have our masterclasses. All of this is on our website, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. And then we have our Conversations for Change, where we meet and talk with some of the most incredible thinkers who would say yes to us, to come and share their ideas for how we can create a better future. And so that's what we've been doing so far. And now I would like to communicate with you all a great reset. And then I'm going to pause then we're going to pause for a little bit. Okay. So we did all of this in 2020, most of it on a volunteer basis. We launched the summit hoping that some people will pay for the summit and, we could start building our sustainability. That didn't work. That's fine. We are still committed to the work that we're here to do. One of the things that we didn't do, because of the speed at which we had to operate in 2020, is launch our collaborative. So in 2019, when we decided upon what we were doing and coming together and incorporated, Anya and I, we have our founding documents, which I can share with anyone who's interested after, which show that we always wanted to establish a Future Law Institute and a Future Law Collaborative, right? And the collaborative would be open, a decentralized, autonomous organization that could make money, right? So it's not that, oh, you don't have to make money, right? But that decentralized autonomous organization would be what could be the umbrella organization for the work that we were doing. However, in order to act as quickly as we did during 2020 and do all the stuff that we did not have the time to work out the governance issues. And we felt that we could have come with our model in 2020 to all of these people who were part of what we were doing, but we would not have had the time to really develop it in such a way that people could feel they co-own this, because it would have been, here what, this is what we're creating the world, this is our collaborative, come join us, this is what it would cost, let's do this together. And it just didn't seem like the right thing for us to do at that time. And I would say today, it still doesn't seem like the right thing for us to do, to come and tell you, oh, this is our collaborative, this is our model, this is our structure, let's go this way. The Great Reset we want to communicate today is that we do want to do the work right now of establishing the collaborative. And we want to invite, and Future Law Institute will be a member organization in the collaborative that will be on par with any other organization that comes in to the collaborative. So we've changed our idea from a Future Law collaborative to creating a collaborative that the members can determine how they may want to call it. We could just call ourselves the collaborative, quite frankly. But Future Law will be a member, and we want to be able to invite organizations who are understanding the vision that we are communicating and the importance and role of law in any of the system change discourses. We want, and how can we create this new genre of policy actor and curate these policy intervention points. This invitation we really want to make to everyone to come and join us in this collaborative. Let's work out the governance of this collaborative, and let's see how we can build this together. I'm going to stop there because I don't know how long I've been going for. And we're going to take a pause, and then we're going to come back for reflections. Anja, you want to?
Yeah, so what's going to happen next is we're going to be putting on this presentation, and you're going to be hearing sound in the background, but please take this break as you want, be it to kind of observe how you breathe and go through your own breathing exercise, have it for the meditation, or simply just get a coffee or take it as a toilet break. Hello and welcome back.
Hello, hello, hello. All right. So shall we open up the floor for a little feedback and discussion before we share what is coming up? Who wants to jump in?
Just to go for it.
Sorry, Thea, could you close the screen share down so we can see one another?
Good idea. Good thinking, Batman.
Awesome. So I saw Ana Luisa shared with us that you are a co-founder of OLADC, Organización Latinoamericana de Derecho Colaborativo. I have no idea if I'll actually pronounce that correctly, but there's apparently 10 countries in that. I'd love to hear more on what triggered your thoughts there and whether that's a compatible collaboration there. What do you think?
I'm sorry, you asked it for me?
Yeah, I mean...
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, we have this group. We started during the same time of pandemic situation. We started to be in touch. A small group from lawyers from Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, and then Panama. And we decided, since our meetings were getting better and better, we decided to invite another lawyers from different countries. And then naturally we created this informal organization. The name is OLADC. It's a Latin American Organization of Collaborative Law. And now we have 10 countries, I'm sorry, 11 countries, because the last one was Mexico. And we are not dealing only with the Latin countries. We are trying to put in our group the Caribbean communities as well. And we are discussing the new approach, the innovation, the situation in Latin America, our differences in terms of culture, our legal system, which is civil law basic, and how to adapt, for example, methodologies that came from common law. And we are trying to formalize our organization. Maybe our headquarters will be in Panama. We are deciding to formalize. And we are trying to increase this new mentality of collaboration, mediation, the conscious contracts as well, negotiation. And I don't know, we are very proud of what we've done so far, because it's not easy to put together people from different countries, especially here in Latin America. We are very passionate and we fight a lot. We are intense, and we talk at the same time, and it has been a challenge. And it will be a pleasure to be in touch with other organizations. We are a new one, we are a baby, but we have 11 countries, so I think it's something. I'm proud of it, our work so far. Thank you.
Congratulations on that. And you do have quite a lot of people present here on this call from the Caribbeans. Quite positive there's going to be some connections there.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
But when you say collaborative law, you are looking at that strain of law that was developed by this guy. What's his name? So it's not that
Stu Webb.
Right. So this is like, how do we engage more, so it's the cognitive and behavioral sciences transformation, that aspect of emergent law and practice that you all are basically focused on, or every area?
No, every area. A collaboration in sense of to generate a different mindset, not exactly only the methodology created by Stu Webb,
Okay.
because it's something weird, not weird, but it is something interesting to think that common law, we in the civil law, we generate a lot of rules. It's the way we deal with the legal system, not common law. Common law, it's not the characteristic. But in terms of collaborative law, they in US, for example, and Canada, they try to write a rule. And this is different for us because we don't need a rule to be collaborative. This is the point we are discussing. And if it's something that try to innovate, and then you put again in the same box. So this is one of our discussions in our group. But we are trying to be open, not only to restrict our work. So it's not only the methodology of collaborative, strict sense.
Okay, got it. And any reflections on what future law is trying to do, and how we might be able to work together, if you would be interested?
Of course, it will be an honor to be part of this group. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else has reflections?
Margaret, if I may, thank you for a really amazing journey, an amazing presentation, and we're really looking forward to seeing the slides because there's a lot there to process. So my feeling is, without wanting to jump right to the end, but that we're going to need a little bit more time really to process and to reflect on how that lands with us and our various practices and wherever we find ourselves, for those like me that are maybe newer to the actual conversation. So I'm hoping that there might be a soon-ish kind of follow-up engagement in a way, where we can, after we've kind of processed a little bit. My question at the moment is very superficial. But I'm kind of stuck with it, and I'm not able to really move beyond it right now, which is your strapline. I'm wondering why you chose the concept of engineering when we are working with complex living systems.
Yeah.
So yeah, in this work, it is such a challenge to unthink the reductionist paradigm in our language, in our metaphors, in everything that we do, in our processes, and you were speaking about embodiment a lot. So I was just wondering what was behind that.
Absolutely. The law is built on a mechanistic model. It is. And change in the law will have to be engineered. So when you take a critical systems thinking approach, every system is not the same. Some systems are complex adaptive systems. Some systems are mechanistic systems that need to be re-engineered. And law, in my view, is one of those systems that marries the two. So yes, law is a complex adaptive system because we are human beings as complex adaptive systems interacting with the law. But the law as written in the books is written quite mechanistically. And if we are to intervene to change the legal system, which is where we are particularly concerned, right? Mindsets is not the focus or the only or the primary focus of future law. That would be more under the head of work that we do at USolve, right? But the work of future law is the mechanistic re-engineering of the rules that exist. So that's the reason why we settled on engineering a better world. However, as we are coming to you now as the collaborative, and we're not calling it the future law collaborative, we're saying the collaborative, that strapline could be entirely different. It's not the strapline for the collaborative, right? But we see ourselves as the engineers of the legal aspects. So yeah, we can't wish the law away. And that's the truth. We can't positive think the law away, you know, and that's why we exist. But thanks for that question. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to explain that.
May I connect with that and say, I would be really interested to hear more about what else was considered, because my immediate response also was, is it radical enough to try and re-engineer an engineering system? How does that fit with your idea of being radical?
I hear you.
Regenerative.
No, I hear you on that. My response to that always is, I am with all of the people in the world. I know many of them. I am one of them who wants to reimagine a world where we are constructing the way we interact with each other entirely differently, right? My concern has always been practical. Do we become that just by saying we are that? How do we destroy, how do we deconstruct existing structures that constrain us, right? And so to me, there's a need. Future law is not the answer to everything, and we're very clear on that. But future law is the answer to how do we make the path clearer and easier for us to embody the new way. So we are hybrid sort of organ. We have to be in that hybrid. And that's how I see it, you know, but I wish that we could just focus on embodiment and relationship and, you know, consciousness and elevating our collective consciousness. But I just think those of us who are lawyers, I think we have a responsibility to do more than just that. How do we unpack those areas where in our system, we are contributing to the disruptive outcomes and degenerative outcomes? But that's my take.
Maybe somebody else wants to share what their perspective is. And Rui, you're having a hand up, but please feel free to share.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. First of all, thank you to have me in this section. I am not a lawyer, but I would like to jump in and to make a question, because Margaret said something about a point or a dimension about the rule of law and human rights. I would like to know more about in this perspective of interdisciplinary approach, because I'm not a lawyer, I'm a sociological background and human rights. I'm working here in the municipality, also in immigration, rule of law. I would like just to know how this interdisciplinary, if I'm not wrong, if I hear correctly, will be approached in the future, or how framework, how someone that is not a lawyer could also contribute to mindset, also to develop the project.
Yeah, absolutely. In our network communities of practice, it is not exclusive to lawyers, and it cannot be. If we only had lawyers there, then we would not be fulfilling what I think we are trying to do in the world, which is to bring that interdisciplinary dialogue and understandings together. So within the network community of practice, we want to have the social scientists, we want to have scientists, we want to have subject matter experts, methodologists, all of that working together to come up with new policy narratives on particular issues. So what we do is we identify specific issues. So under rule of law and human rights, if that is your area, we had started to develop. We haven't done very much in the rule of law and human rights NCOP, except develop some analysis, which we have in some visualizations, and identify some areas that we wanted to focus on, which would have been, I remember it was excessive police force, future of modern policing. We were looking at access to information, access to justice. Is Anuba still here? Access to justice during the pandemic. So those were the kinds of issues that we were looking at. And of course, the authoritarianism of governments under the rule of law and human rights. Those with prisoners' rights. And we generated a couple papers. The lawyers who did, then Godfrey is, and some of the others are Seventh-day Adventists, and they couldn't come today. But so we've generated some papers. So yes, so we have these NCOPs. Each NCOP has a leadership team, which is self-organized, and each NCOP determines the structure of the meetings, how often they will meet, you know, how they're going to come around the work that they're trying to do in the world. So I hope that answers. And I just if you'd like to be involved in what we're doing, we'd love to have your leadership, you know, in human rights NCOP to, you know, figure this out as we go ahead.
Will be amazing. Will be amazing. How we could be in contact, because I'm already, I click in your YouTube also channel, and also something in your network. But do you need some information about me, or
yes.
emails?
This is what we're doing now. So what we did last year is from March till around July, August, we had weekly meetings, right? Doing the work together and really getting the work done. From around August, we stopped that. What we're going to do, we will share with you the membership form and all of that. And we are going to restart the meetings, but we wanted to have this meeting first and this conversation first, and share this conversation as a video with the wider network and all of that. And based on the agreements coming out of that, we can then think about structure of the general meetings again, you know?
Okay.
But yeah,
fantastic.
Great, fantastic.
Fantastic for the procediment. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that Rui looks like Pelé in his picture.
Doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know? This is something that I'm afraid sometimes to be in the street, because here in German, every time that I'm in the street, they connect to me or Pelé or the French, someone from French background.
Nice.
Yes, you really like Pelé. Thank you, Rui.
Yeah, welcome.
So
Just a point of clarification, Margaret and Anja, the communities, the networked communities of practice, do those fall under the institute, or do they, because I'm still kind of just getting the orientation. What I heard you say was the institute is who the institute is, and you and Anja, and you are really working hard, and you are forging ahead, and you're getting very clear on your theory of change, and on all of that stuff. And then there's the collaborative, which at the moment is just called the collaborative, which is a little bit sad, losing that lovely, sexy future law thing. And that the collaborative, the Future Law Institute will be one member amongst many within the collaborative, but other organizations and individuals can join the collaborative. And that the collaborative still needs to sort itself out. It still needs to form itself. You said there isn't yet a strapline or a theory of change, whatever.
Well, okay. Let me just say this. No, we had the Future Law Collaborative design, developed, strapline, everything prior to 2020. Okay, and we can share those documents with you. Some of you in this group may have had them before. So the network communities of practice always has been seen as key to what the Future Law Institute is trying to do. What I'm saying is when we started our activity in 2020, we did not do the work to establish the Future Law Collaborative. We already had our institute and we just got along with the work, because to me, establishing a collaborative required a lot more time with everyone, figuring out what collectively we wanted to do together. Future Law, if we are a member of any collaborative coming out from this point going forward, would obviously want to really share our vision and seek to bring you into that vision. However, with the collaborative, we are absolutely open to what is wanting to emerge there. But if people like Future Law Collaborative, we're happy to call it Future Law Collaborative, but we don't want to start on that basis. We want to start it on the basis of equity and equality in the new collaborative, right? So that any organization, so like Derecho Colaborativo, I could speak Spanish, huh?
Okay,
no, that's Portuguese.
great.
Is that Portuguese? That's Spanish. I can speak a little bit of Spanish, but yeah. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Let's just move on. Yeah, if we have no more reflections right now, I'm seeing the time, and we do want to just share with you some exciting things we have coming up. And then
Anuba just have
give you Anuba. Yeah, Anuba, jump in. Yeah.
Hi, I've come in after a really long time, and I think and that's probably the reason why I'm asking what I'm asking, because I feel like there's a disconnect. So what really is happening with the GCPR work then? I mean, I believe a lot of data has come together, and so are you still intending to analyze that and have that out in some form, or I mean, what's happened to that?
Absolutely. So in terms of our work going forward, we now need to re-engage and start rebuilding, continuing to collect that data and continuing to do research. When we talk about what's coming up, you will see that part of our focus is going to be, seeking research funding to do some of the work that we want to do as well through the network communities of practice, which we hope we can do through the collaborative. But absolutely, Anuba, we stopped after the summit, and it was a hard stop, but Anja and I and the team had, it was so much work to pull that off and to bring that together. We just needed to rest a bit, but we're ready to take up the mantle again and continue the work of the GCPR, continue the publication of reports and the pursuit of research questions based on what we've collated from the countries.
Okay, that's good to know, because it's, I mean, even when I'm with my team just looking at the data that we collected for India, just the litigation, while it's, I mean, it is covering about 5 months, but it is a lot of data that we have together. And also we feel like, it's our responsibility to have that out, because nobody else has done something like that. And
That's right.
I had shared that we wrote one article on just the accessibility of the high courts, from the point of view of their own notifications, etc., just the administrative bit. And we've got a fantastic response to that. And I mean, that has really pushed us to now ensure that we analyze the rest of the data that we got together during those months, and really come out with the statistics and the report of how accessible the higher courts in the country were, and also look at the different categorizations that we were following, based on the sheet that that you guys had developed.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's really important that this is done.
Absolutely. We're certainly not leaving that and letting that go. We're continuing with that. It's how do we structure ourselves going forward in a sustainable way to make it happen and make it continue to happen. And this is why we're opening our hands now to say, can we do this together? Because we want to be able to create open, accessible resources. All of that, the GCPR, all of that is searchable and accessible right now to anyone, anywhere in the world. And we want to continue to be able to do that. Yeah. If everyone, yeah, I like Ilza's suggestion that we follow up where we can get even more feedback in there. We just quickly want to share with you what's coming up next and the invitation that is only available to those on this call, right? So really quickly, what's coming up next? We still had a couple slides on the PowerPoint, but I'm looking at the time and I'm feeling I want to share something. Well, I'll share one thing and then I'm going to invite Adam to share something else quickly. So this slide, what's coming up, this current slide. So we are developing a new online platform as a central point for all of the resources that we have been collecting and creating. We are building a policy wiki. So we've built already, if you go futurelaw.io/policy wiki, but we are now populating it. We built it on Atlassian at first, and now we have to transfer all the data onto our policy wiki. So this policy wiki is going to be the resource that our network communities of practice can use to build the knowledge together as we go along. So we can always come back and see everything in a nice wiki layout. We would like to propose us moving conversations off of WhatsApp to Discord, because there's a general future law WhatsApp, but we have several NCOP WhatsApps, but there's no central point where people could know, oh, so this is the general, and this is where I can have the conversation on this NCOP, that NCOP, that NCOP. With Discord, we can structure it nicely. We're integrating that to the back end of the website. And the back end of the website, the platform, we're going to have a shared calendar and really try to develop the resources there. GCPR, critical. We need to continue doing research there. We want to now identify country ambassadors who will take responsibility for building the teams for their countries and for populating and maintaining the integrity of the policy data that we put in there. So we want to continue and start that up again as of now. Upcoming masterclasses, we still doing our masterclasses. That's the Future Law Institute. We definitely want to start looking for funding. We did all that we did 2019 into 2020 based on the time, energy, resources of loads of amazing people and volunteers, and funding from Anja and I. And this is not sustainable. Right? And what we are trying to do right now through the masterclasses is get something in But even that cannot really fund the work that we have going forward, because we're trying to keep the price point so low so we are now going to be putting a focus on funding partnerships and sponsors, and really getting really targeted to organizations that may want to come in and lead an NCOP. So an organization that would want, in a particular policy arena, would want to support the development of a cadre of policy actors that are promoting particular policies around the world on a particular issue. But in our collaborative, money doesn't talk, right? You come in, but the policy must be put through our process of interrogation and through the systemic lens, and really understanding and making sure there are no conflicts of interest. So funding for the NCOPs has to be really thought out very well, and we must have a very transparent approach to how we do that. And we don't, and the reason why Anja and I, we've never gone for funding. So it's not as if we've gone for funding and we've gotten turned down. We have never gone for funding. We have now decided that we're going to have to go for funding, but we're going to have to be really careful about who we go to for funding. And we really would love more brain power coming in with us to support us on this. And that's why we're thinking, let's form this collaborative, equity across the collaborative, organizations, individuals coming in, and we go for funding, and we all, take responsibility for what's going on there. Right, so that we separate from Future Law Institute, who would just be a member of the collaborative. That's why we're proposing that model, but open to feedback. FLVS 2021, we definitely want to do that. No time to talk about that right now, but we certainly want to do that. And research projects, we have several coming up. So I'll be launching 2 this month, linked to my doctoral research and all of that. So it's good stuff. That's coming up. And I will stop sharing now and invite Adam to talk about what else we're going to be doing with negotiating the new normal. You want to share screen, Adam?
I do. Let's see how this goes. There we are. Right, I'm going to blast straight through this because I know everybody's got afternoons, mornings, evenings to get on with. So introducing negotiating the new normal, the debates. This isn't official branding. This is just something I've thrown together for this little presentation. So what are the debates? They are going to be structured live online debates using either Zoom or StreamYard, most probably, on the central issues to forming a safer, more just and more regenerative future in alignment with the vision of the Future Law Institute. So just before I go on to that, what will they be like? Well, they will be empathically driven. They'll be meticulously timed and curated and moderated to be free of insult and unconstructive criticism. And they will be open to everybody to be a part of as well. But why do we want to do this? Well, the new normal we're negotiating presents enormous problems, as we all know. Crises seem to just cascade towards us from all angles at the moment. And to overcome the challenges we face, we as a global society have to collaborate. But we find ourselves more polarized than ever and are quickly losing the ability to effectively communicate with those who think differently, like this chap here on the right. So the reasons we're impassioned to stage debates are threefold. Firstly, to foment greater cognitive and emotional empathy around the important issues. Secondly, to demonstrate positive and effective communication between those who hold differing views. And then thirdly, to inspire action and collaboration to affect policy change concerning the issues at hand. So what kind of topics will be discussed? Well, we've got a couple of ideas that have been born out of some of the things that Future Law Institute has been involved with and talking about recently, especially in the WhatsApp group, for example. So one is ecocide, and there was a masterclass on ecocide, the first masterclass this year. And one of the issues that has arisen from it, or questions, has been, is criminalizing ecocide fair to later industrializing countries. So that's one possible. Another possibility that I'm actually very excited about is asking the question, is it time to abolish the police force? Because that's something that we've been hearing a lot about recently. And then the question mark symbolizes the open invitation to you. I want you to think, what are the most important topics that are divisive, that have left people polarized, that you would like to see discussed? So the structure, here we are. Firstly, we'll do a pre-event poll.
Adam, can I just say something? We have a question from Ilza about why debates, not dialogues? And this is something we spent a lot of time on. So I don't know if you could just...
Well, I'll come to that. I'll come to that, so don't worry.
All right.
So pre-event poll. So we're going to be deciding, well, people will be asked the question, what is your current stance on the debate question? Because that will give us something to compare against at the end. Then there'll be an introduction to the event and debate topic, of course. And then what's key and different about these debates is that we're going to be sharing human experiences. So as part of developing the emotional and cognitive empathy, before just bowling straight into, well, I think this and he or she or they thinks that, we're going to be actually sharing a couple of human experiences of people who have been affected by the topic. So if we're talking about abolishing the police, for example, then there'll be an example of somebody who's been really helped and supported by the police and has benefited from traditional conventional policing. And then there'll be an example of a human experience of somebody who hasn't, somebody who has really not benefited from traditional conventional policing. Then the two debaters will have an opening statement for a couple of minutes, and then it'll be the moderator's turn to ask questions to the debaters, and then each debater gets the opportunity to respond to the answer that the other person has given. So after 2 questions each, there'll be closing statements, and then this is where we come to Ilza's comment. So common ground. We don't just want to debate and give platform to more polarization. So we're going to be asking the question to each debater, what have you respected most about the argument of the other side? And I think this is something when me and Margaret discussed it the other day as well. I'm really actually excited to explore how we can elaborate on that more, because it's going to be really important to make sure that people go away from it having a shared experience and having a better understanding of how they can work together. Following that, there'll be the chance for audience members to ask questions. So we'll invite 3 questions from the audience or comments if they just want to continue to contribute to the argument. And then there'll be the call to action to continue the debate on Discord, which if you didn't read in the comments is pretty much like a different version of Slack. And then there'll be a post-event poll to see what people think now after the debate has unfolded. And then the debate will continue on Discord. So can anybody guess what these 4 debaters and moderator have in common? So the structure of the debate has been very much influenced by something called monk debates, which are very famous debates which originated in Canada. And they're really interesting. They get some heavyweight people on there and really inspiring thinkers. But there's something that really bugs me about them. And what these 4 debaters have in common is that they are all white men. And hilariously, the debate topic was, should we tax the rich? So they decided to invite 4 rich white men to debate, should we tax rich white men? So in response to that, for these debates to be fair and relevant to the real world, they must represent the real world in all its diversity. So that means we must be a part of addressing the imbalances in our society. And that means there will be no all-white debates and no all-male debates. And the guiding philosophy of the Future Law Institute as well is that law must be made considering the good of all, including those beyond national boundaries. So in alignment with that, the debate issues will be mindful of the international perspective as well, global north and south. So finally, just a little bit about moderator. That's me for now. If anybody else wants to join in and moderate a debate, then that can certainly be explored. So my background is in broadcasting. Been doing that for 18 years now. There's my website there under construction. And my passion is in strengthening empathic bonds between different people. Yeah, I've just finished running a non-profit organization as well, which closed very recently, which was all about strengthening community cohesion. And yeah, there we are. That is the presentation. I shall stop sharing. So if anybody's got any quick questions, I'm very happy to answer.
A lot of questions in the chat about debate and dialogue and, you know, complexity approaches or binary approaches to issues. You know, do you want to take that, or does anyone want to voice their perspective on this outside of the chat?
No.
Yes, Ilse, Severe.
So what I would say, first of all, is yes, I'm completely on board with that, absolutely 100%. And what I've also learned from the Monk debates is that it's very powerful to have the structured this argument and this argument. I don't think there's been a single debate of theirs that I've listened to or watched that hasn't left me feeling much more understanding for how others think. That hasn't left me challenging my own view that I went into the debate with. So initially, to have the positions really clear in a respectful, contained, structured way is very powerful. But I think where we want to make this different, and in alignment with what your comments are suggesting, then it's about finding and recognizing that common ground. It's about making that space to humanize each other and discuss things as a unit rather than as polar opposites. So I really would like to introduce that element of a change of pace, a change of tempo, where it goes from being adversarial to, okay, now we've got everything out there and we understand where each other's coming from. Where are we now? How do we move on from here? And that's when the debate continues on Discord as well. So I'm very open to any ideas as to how we can strengthen that part of dialogue in these debates.
I'll just add, my comment was born out of an interesting experiment, which was the three-legged cooking pot. In other words, 3 argument positions, not 2. And that was a fascinating experience.
Ooh. Would you mind just really quickly elaborating on what that was?
Well, instead of having 2 people, the traditional debate for and against, there was a 3-position argument built. So you had 3 debates.
Was it a, I don't know, was it like an online debate, a visual thing, or was it a live event, or?
Yeah, well, it began as an open space event, and then a request was, could we have 3 positions, exactly like a traditional debate, but not 2 positions. That's
really interesting. Mm-hmm.
I'd be very interested in learning more about it too, because it sounds as if with the technology and with having the mechanisms, there's a couple of tools, even platforms, that allow us to put a vote or some decision to be voted on, and then everybody kind of contributes their feedbacks and make a decision whether they like that proposal or not. But it seems that as much as we are migrating towards the digital tools, it's never just a yes and no. Everybody just wants to make the iterations to the proposal itself. So we are really becoming more and more complex, and it's really not just about the yes and no, but all the shades that we can actually recognize and observe in between, or that are influencing the decisions that are being taken at the end. And it's so visible in the law especially, or maybe more or less on the European level. Whenever you are introducing the directive into the regulatory space, what usually happens is that all the states are implementing that directive into the national state differently. So you end up having even more polarization. You end up having even more fragmentation in law instead of actually achieving the harmonization to some extent. But it's really interesting to have a tripartite structure of a debate instead of 2.
I'm feeling, thank you for that suggestion, Swaya. I feel like I'm taking up a lot of time as a complete noob in this space. And I don't feel that I have the locus standi to be really articulating all my concerns, kind of having just come in. But I am so uncomfortable with the idea of a debate that I am having an actual hot flush. I'm kind of completely so triggered by it. And I need time to think about, is this just a trigger, is this just an overreaction, or is there really like foundational reasons why it is completely incumbent on us not to use terms like debate, not to role model old, outdated concepts like debate, particularly in a legal space which is built on this adversarial kind of winning and losing, which is built on speaking and arguing and persuasion, as opposed to listening and humility and relationality. And it feels to me, I'm still kind of processing Margaret's very powerful explanation around their choice of, engineering as a, in the context of laws and that pragmatic approach and the idea of a hybrid organization operating between two paradigms. But we have to keep the reins, in my opinion, so tightly on the old, unless, lest it runs away with us, I know this is overquoted and quoted out of context, but Audre Lorde's "The master's tools will not dismantle the master's house."
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, if it is in my place at all, I'd like to put a pause on the idea of debate. I know you said you've already had a lot of conversations about it. Maybe it's too late now to go back and re-engage with it. From an African perspective, we come with this concept of Ubuntu, the concept of listening spaces, respectful listening spaces, so I just think we're coming maybe from a different kind of worldview, or a different cosmology, or a different kind of embodied process of having really difficult conversations. And so I'm just kind of dropping that in there, but I do feel like I'm stepping over my place in the space. So, yeah.
Okay, so absolutely not. You're not stepping over your place at all. This is what we encourage. This is why we have these kinds of spaces like this. I would say that the debate dialogue approach, we have been looking at this since prior to the summit. We, in fact, at the summit wanted to have a debate. And we went through these issues in great detail with our team and everybody that was around. We did not have the debate at the summit in the end. It really was not, we got a lot of response like yours. We have circled back now to the idea of the debate, again, based on what we are trying to accomplish in the world. We are trying to bring disparate positions together. We are trying to bring people together that do not embody the new ways of being and doing. The methodology for doing so, particularly in an online format, in terms of, we don't think it's one methodology, that the only way that we can shift people from one way of being and doing is by creating spaces where they're forced to be and do in that way. We think that we can also meet people where they are at. And the debate is a mechanism like that, meeting people where they are at, and through the debate, we transform the way they engage with the issue. We try to open their eyes, we try to, help them to shift. I would say when we go into discord and what comes after the debate, that as conceived, as we've presented, is what's important. Putting it out there as a debate is the way in which it will engage people who are not like you and I, who think that the way to go forward is about, listening and being, and I'm all for that, and the relation and all of this. But I think we have to get dirty a little bit. We have to go into the world to pull some people out. At least I think so. I mean, I understand the perspective of embodying and being and radiating that light as we walk through the world. And that's all that we can do. I understand that perspective. I don't share it. I don't think that is all that we can do. I think we can meet people in different ways. And I think the debate is just one way that we're going to try. We listened and we didn't do it for the summit. And we would like to try it and see what happens. But this is what we do. We iterate and prototype and shift really quickly. We're not dogmatic about our approaches. And I think it's really methodology that you're at. And the question is, what is the outcome we're hoping for from the debate? Are we hoping to have a changed world, a transformed world by a debate? No. Are we hoping to shift a perspective by a debate? Yes, and open up space for continued dialogue, because the person has now shifted slightly. There's an opening. There's and I'm attracted to what Savia said about the three thing, because the third way could be that how do we hold the tension between the two positions? And so I'm attracted to that and you know, playing with that, and that could be a second stage of the debate or dialogue. And I mean, yeah. So that's what I would say. But I love your response on this, Ilse. So please don't think that this is not welcome at all. This is what we need for us to make sure that we understand what we're trying to do as well. And we are prepared to shift too, right? Right, Adam and Anya?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if what we say not making sense, we shift. Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
I'm
sorry.
actually just looking at the word moot, because I wasn't even aware that the debate is coming from a Latin word for fight. So it literally, to the roots, actually presents people fighting with each other, and talking about how Hmong debates actually are using the word debates, and you know, having all those white guys talking about how the rich should be managing taxes. I feel very okay with diverging away from the word debate, but then the very second, because in my country it doesn't have that kind of a connotation at all. People just think that people are philosophers if they enter a debate, like instantly. But another word that popped my mind was another legal perhaps term that is being used when two parties have to vocalize their points of view, and then almost as if they need to make a decision or convince someone as a judge that they are the right, or that this is how the case needs to be solved. And in that case, we usually use the word moot. And moot perhaps comes from a much, much better root word, which is the mutian, or related to meet, to converse. So it's an open suggestion being put out there, but to moot and to have the mutants. I love it because of that, probably. Just because one can then have the mutants. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of more words, and I'm always keen to explore the language because it is fascinating.
Mute spelt how?
M-O-O-T.
Okay. Yeah, just really quickly, I just want to add as well, the important thing is the intention behind the debates. And it is important that it's a listening space. So traditionally, debate is used to declare a winner, a battle to decide who is going to dominate. And a lot of people are engaged by that. And so like Margaret was saying, going out there and meeting people where they are, putting out the question like that, framing it in such a way will engage people, which is vitally important. There's no point in having a debate to just a few people who all think like you. So then it's so important how the thing is moderated. It's then important to make sure that it is framed as being a listening and learning space. And the polls are not to declare who is the winner. It needs to be framed as the polls to make clear what people's stances are and thoughts were to begin with, and then how those perspectives may have changed after they've been a part of the session. So yeah, just wanted to add that, but yeah, it's I see you, Alyssa, it's getting on.
Just one very short point, if I may. this conversation just keeps on coming back, and I think it has a lot to do with discovering this new normal, right? This new paradigm, and that we don't even have the words for, and the tension that we all feel in being in a, in kind of like an old world, but and having a very strong desire to move towards something new. I do think the tension is a fight in itself, right? We will have to fight over the future. And, but I wonder if the debates could be focused on much more on, rather than entrenching yourself in the old, could they be focused on competing narratives of the future? And maybe the third party could even be our future ancestors, our future generations, a representative of future generations or something. This is what it sparked. When there's a lot of unconstructive debate, and it's usually about keeping what a lot of the discussion is either keeping what I have versus getting what I don't have. And but if we can transcend that and go to more competing worldviews, or maybe even competing values, right? What is the role of individualism versus collectivism? What is the role of collaboration versus competition? These what is important about being a human. So, and that's what I hear in this, because I have I actually, thank you, Ilse, I have the same kind of experience when thinking about, especially when you showed the picture of the old white men. But how do we, I think what you're pointing towards, how do we discover the future in our old format, or in rehashing an old format? So there's a tension there. And the tension is not, it's not to be done away with. It's something we'll have to engage with.
Yeah, I'm looking at the time. We're going to have to just bring everything to a close. But I do want to say I just really appreciate where the conversation has gone on this debate and dialogue, and the ideas that are coming from you all. And I think this is what we need. We would love to have these kinds of discourses to help us figure out better ways of trying to do this that we're trying to do. So I really appreciate every single comment here, and we do have to make a couple decisions before we leave. We'll go deeper into those things after. So we have an invitation that we want to give to you, which is everyone who is here. There is a paywall on the Future Law Collaborative Future Law membership that we have on the website. That was prior to today, and we want to, for those of you who are not ongoing members, we would like to issue an invitation for you to come and be with us for a year, complimentary, while we try to figure out how we establish ourselves together. So we are going to be providing you with that. So you get access to all the resources and flicks and everything that we have, and the master classes every month, everything that we do, Conversations for Change, everything that we do, you get access, and you can come and really help. You can learn and also help build what we're trying to do. The new communications channel, I'm looking at the time, I don't think we're going to be able to make decisions around these things. But what I think we could do is take the suggestion from Ilse and probably set another meeting date, let's say in about 2 weeks, where we could just come back and finish some of these discussions and make decisions on the new communications channel. We would like to establish a governance and strategy team to think about a new collaborative and the frequency of our meetings. So Anja, I don't know what decision you think we can come to today about scheduling, or whether we just close up and schedule another meeting to finish.
we can definitely schedule. How do you guys feel about the 1st of May? Meeting for the 1st of May.
What day is that?
It's Saturday and it's in 2 weeks.
Saturday
May
is
is in
not good
2
for a
weeks.
couple people.
Well, today is Saturday.
I know.
If we would prefer to have the meeting over the weekday, then perhaps 29th might actually be good as well. That is Thursday.
Is everyone
Around
here
3
in the
p.m.
WhatsApp? In the general future law WhatsApp? Jatin, are you there? I see Ilza's there, Anna's there, Surveyor's there, Anya's there, Rui.
No.
Sorry? You're not
No,
at,
this is the first time. I'm not there.
okay, so you're not
You
in
can
the
add
WhatsApp.
me.
So we'll need to,
I am also in the WhatsApp.
okay, great. I know Anuba's there. I know Victor's there, Jessica, everybody else. Jatin, we'll need to add you. Anya, could we just share the link? Maybe we agree the next date via Doodle Poll or something. 2 weeks from now, Anya?
We can do as well. Yep. Otherwise,
Mm,
probably
so-
the easiest way is to actually propose 29th at
Yeah.
3 p.m. CET or 2 p.m. BST. Not to mention the
Never
GMT
will.
any longer.
Yeah, so we'll do that. So we'll
29th.
propose it in the WhatsApp. Please give Jatin the link.
Here's the link.
And we are going to send you communications around how you can access. Anya, do you have the code or anything
Yeah.
ready for how people can just go on the website, use the code and join? All right, we'll send it to you. Yeah? Oh, that's
Awesome.
Anya's looking for it. Okay, Anya's posted a code there, which is for everyone in this meeting, for you to go onto the Future Law website, fill out the form. When it comes to the payment, you put in this code and you will come in complimentary. And if there's anyone in your network close to you you think might be interested in helping co-create this with us, help shape this with us, you can give that code to them as well. And once you're there, you're going to be on our mailing list. We'll communicate with you about the next meeting, but tentatively we're looking at in 2 weeks time, around 2 weeks time, to come back and discuss where we're at. Yeah, Anya has put the link to join there. Does anyone want to say anything in closing before we go?
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Okay, I want to thank all of you all for plugging in on a Saturday. Please enjoy the rest of your weekend. It has been great interacting with all of you today. And Ilza, please stick with us. I know you may be put off by some of the language, but we need to have this kind of diversity together and figure out how we could, yeah, come together. I love the diversity. So lots of love, guys. Have a great weekend. See you all in 2 weeks, hopefully. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.